Hello students, today's agenda is to work on scenarios and expressions, and you will be able to do 1.6. Today students will be able to write scenarios from expressions and write expressions from given scenarios. And so before we do that, let's start with a warm-up. How many pennies does Miss Hernandez have? Well, you can't really see inside of my purse, so we don't know how many pennies are in there. In fact, I don't know myself. So we're just going to represent it with a variable, and it can be P for pennies or it can be X. Okay? And so what does that X represent? It's the number of pennies that I have in my purse. Okay? How many nickels? Well, it can be the same number exactly. Sometimes it does by chance. It's coincidence that it's the same number, but not always. So we're going to use a different variable. And again, it can be N for nickels, but you can also use Y. So the Y represents the number of nickels that I have. How much does she have? Okay, so how much money do I have? Well, we know that the pennies, the value of each penny is 1 cent. So we multiply 1 times X. We usually don't put 1 as a coefficient, so you can just put X. Plus, we're gonna add the value of the nickels. And the nickels is represented by Y. And the value of each nickel is 5 cents, so we're going to multiply by 5. And so this will give the total amount of my nickels and my pennies. Again, this is how many I have multiplied by the 5 because that's how much each one is worth. This is how many pennies I have multiplied by 1 cent because that's the value of each one. And so together being added, that's the money I have. Again, when you're adding and you don't have an equal sign, that's called an expression. Okay, I'm gonna put some definitions that you have seen previously in lessons from before. So variables. Any letter that represents an unknown number. So for example, it can be W, X, Y, N. It doesn't matter what letter, but it represents some value that we don't know. Coefficient, a number that multiplies a variable. So if we have 3x, the number next to x is 3, that's the coefficient. Constant is a number with no variable. So for example, we have 3x plus 2y plus 5. The 5 doesn't have a variable, that's the constant number. It's a fixed value. And then in here, negative 2y minus 3. The 3 is negative, but still, it doesn't have a variable, so that's the constant. It's a fixed value that we have. Okay, two other terms. Two other definitions. Terms, expressions with multiplication of numbers and variables. And each term is separated by a plus or a minus sign. Okay, so pluses and minus separate each term. So we can say that this is one term. This is another term. It's separated by that plus. And this is another term. It's separated by that minus. When it's negative, we say that the term is negative. When it's positive, the term is positive. Okay, so in this case, we have 3 terms. Okay, factor. It's either numbers or letters that multiply. For example, in here we have 3xy. 3 is a factor, x is a factor, y is a factor. Okay, so 3 different factors because they are all multiplying with each other. In this other expression, we have 3 times whatever is inside of the parentheses, which is 2x plus y. So 3 is a factor, and also 2x plus y is a factor. Okay, so when we multiply something, those are called factors. Now let's go to what we're supposed to be doing. And in here, it says 2x plus 3y. Well, the goal for today is to write scenarios from expressions. This is an expression with two terms. And so it says that we have 2x plus 3y. Well, this could be something like, I buy 2 boxes of apples and 3 bags of apples. And I'm using apples for both of them because if we're adding them together, it will basically mean that we end up with the same unit, okay? Or if you use something like, I buy 2 boxes of apples and 3 bags of pears, how many fruits do I have? Then the unit will be fruit. But in this case, the unit is apples, okay? Now, what if they give us, well, let me give you another example for this same one. You could also say, I have, or I spent, let's see, no, I buy 2 pants, and the X is the amount of money I pay for each of the 2 pants, and 3 blouses. So the 3 is the number of blouses, but Y will represent the price for each blouse. And together is how much I pay for the 2 pants and the 3 blouses. So for the second scenario, again, this is the price for each blouse, the price for each pant. In here, for the first scenario, X represents not the boxes, the 2 represents the boxes, but it's the number of apples in each box. And in here, the Y represents not the bags of apples, but the number of apples inside each bag, okay? Now, what if they give us the scenario and we have to come up with the expression? I have 2 bouquets of flowers and 8 loose flowers. I give some flowers away. So I have 2 bouquets. Do we know how many flowers in each bouquet? No, so we're gonna put 2, because we have 2 bouquets, times the number of flowers in each bouquet. And 8 loose. Careful, some people think that this is loose, like losing something, but no, this is like outside of the package. Sueltas. Okay, so plus 8 that are outside of another package. Okay, so 8 loose flowers. I give some flowers away. Do we know how many flowers we give away? No, and it's not a whole bouquet, so we're not gonna say minus X. We're giving some of those flowers that I have away, but since we don't know the number, we're gonna put a different variable, okay? Now, if it says I give 1 bouquet away, then we say minus X, but it's not like that, so it's just minus Y. And basically that's it, because we don't have any more information. Okay, one more example. What if I have 3n plus 5n? And so, I don't know, maybe we can say that I have 3 packages of socks. Okay. I also have 5, not 3, 5 baskets, and these are pre-arranged baskets of socks. Okay, so the total unit is socks, basically. You can see that the M and the N are represented with different types of packages, but the unit refers to the same thing. Socks for the first one and socks for the second one. So that's very important in here, okay, to talk about the same type of unit. Okay, with this, you're now able to do 1.6 and have fun.